Hello Internet, this is BoneCarlos coming to you live from Shakur's Plateau, but today it's going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be a straight up cast, it's not going to be a co-cast, it's going to be more of an informative kind of thing because I have TheNatureBoy who is playing as Esnov in this replay. TheNatureBoy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Basically, I am a former Brood War player, although to my own admission that I was pretty much a money map player through most of Brood War. I pretty much religiously used Terran. Towards the end of Brood War, I decided, okay, StarCraft 2 is not gonna have money maps, so I decided to start making the changeover. And when I got this game, I started off in the bottom of barrel bronze and kind of worked my way up to where I am now here in a high diamond.
High Diamond. Hey, you know what? FMP and R20, dude. That's awesome. I used to remember playing that as well. Fastest map possible. So, what you want to display here is pretty much your build order that you have up against Protoss, you were telling me, and you use this 100% of the time. Is that correct?
That is definitely correct. And just to clarify, this is not an original build of my own. I actually learned this from a good friend of mine that met some of you, if you post on the Terran forums on Battle.net, know him as Hammer. So I want to give a shout out to him just because of teaching me this awesome build. And yeah.
Alright, so big old shout out to Hammer. And Hammer, I hate you very much since I am a Protoss player. And how dare you build something that could beat the almighty Protoss. This is all I'm saying. I mean, Hammer, you sound like a nice guy, but that's just my own personal opinion. But that's a-okay. TheNatureBoy, tell us about this exact build order and what you do, and if there's any specific keys or timings that you tried to hit.
Basically, this isn't exactly what you'd call the most complicated build in the world. Basically, its core goal is it's combining all of Terran's most high DPS units, which is the Marine, the Thor, and the Banshee. And basically this is going to give you a lot of damage output crazy quick, and it has the capability of being able to beat a Protoss in the later stages of the game. And you'll notice also in this replay, though, this guy steals my gas. Not that it matters.
And when you say later stages of the game, at what time are you talking about? Since I always have a little bit trouble when people say late game, meta game, mid game. For me, mid game is generally just any time at the middle of the replay, and that could be anywhere from 5 to 30 minutes depending on what game and what build order you're going for. So what's the mid game for this build order?
The end game, you're mainly gonna want to move out by around somewhere between 15 and 17 minutes, ideally towards the 15 mark, but I don't feel comfortable moving on until my supply is virtually maxed, just because it seems to work out that way. And a lot of the time you'll find yourself ahead of the Protoss on supply fairly significantly, because they'll try to grab a third base at the very latest by like 13 or 14 minutes. So you want to push out really ideally by 15 or 16.
Alright, so about 15 or 16 is when you generally want to push out. And just go about the builder that you see, like when you start building what and what you start doing when.
Well, what I first do, there's a couple different ways to open up this build, and a lot of it depends on early game scouting. Like if he's going for like a 1-gate expand or something, you're gonna want to go Barracks CC, and I build a bunker at the top to block all stalker pressure, and then the factory. But if you can kind of tell they're going for like a 4-gate or some kind of earlier pressure, you're gonna want to get that factory first, basically with your first 100 gas, as opposed to taking the workers off of that gas like I do to get that CC out faster. Okay,
so yeah, you're just basically trying to rush for your tech as soon as possible, alongside getting that command center, or that second command center, right?
Yeah, basically, and I mean you want to tweak it a little bit depending on what they're doing. If they're going for a fast nexus, speed up your command center, because there's not going to be any worry of a rush.
Yeah, no, and then in this build, I noticed that you really didn't build any sort of engineering bay when I rushed through it first. First off, is that something that's normal to this build, or something that you might be able to sneak in every once in a while?
You can definitely do it. It's just that with this build, you're also getting a kind of a fast Raven too. So you're actually going to have mobile detection plus scans. So it's really, I mean, turrets aren't really something you want to build earlier on, just because it's going to kind of slow you down, mineral wise. So the Raven and the scans should generally be fine, but like I was mentioning earlier, this left side of the map where those rocks lead into that expansion, those 2 rock paths, you can put a turn or 2 there just to guard against blink stalkers or whatever. But I mean, turns aren't really, if you suspect a DT rush, because again, If you don't scout with this build, you can definitely lose, and that goes. I mean, that goes with anything.
Yeah, well, definitely. It's like don't scout, right? That's my level of play right there. Not scouting forever, but that is okay. And then you're talking about what works well with this build order. What can cause a little bit of a hiccup and might even cause you to lose for all the Terran players out there that might want to avoid mistakes that you've made with this build order before?
Some of the mistakes with this is, for one, don't before you move your command center down, because I like to build it on the high ground because it's safer, keeps them a little bit in the dark as to what I'm doing and whatnot. And so when you bring that down, I brought the command center down, and what I've been doing lately is building a bunker on the bottom before I move everything down. That way I'll have some kind of defense. Because if he decides to poke up and pressure you with a couple stalkers or something, and you don't have that bunker up yet, you could just instantly lose. If you lose those Marines, and then he'll just stall you, expand faster than you, and you'll just die.
Yeah, definitely. You had that bunker up pretty early. I think you had that bunker up as soon as you started putting down that command center. And you're right. If they take that natural expansion area, they could just block you in while they happily take their expansion of their own, the Protoss players. And already your first Thor pops out. It was about at 8:30 or so. And is that generally the time that you want your first Thor out?
With going to the command center before the factory, that's actually really good. If you're going factory first, you could maybe even squeeze a Thor out by 7:30 if you go factory first, and then that's of course if they're gonna go for like a 4-gate or something. I've held off many a 4-gate because of that one Thor.
Oh yeah, okay, definitely. So this Thor is both for defense and just because you just want to start churning out that production of those stores, correct?
That is correct.
And you're only building these stores out of one factory, or do you build a couple more as the game progresses?
One factory, because this game is you're gonna need. This is a fairly gas intensive build. One Thor at a time, because the Thors, although they are all three of these components are important to the build. You're also gonna be eventually pumping Banshees out of 3 Starports, so one factory is really all you're going to be able to afford.
Okay, definitely. So you so it's going to be that one Thor, and then you're going to go pretty much. You said Banshee, Marines, and Thor, correct?
Yep, and then the one Raven I'm going to produce also has a highly valuable role, because if they go heavier Stalkers to try to counteract the Banshees, that Raven's gonna find that quite funny.
With that point defense drone, I'm assuming you're talking about.
Yep, throw down 2. By the time you push out, it should have enough energy for 2-point defense drones, and that's going to be able to block quite a few stalker shots. And as you can see in the replay right there too, I just killed that observer.
Yes.
So as soon as that observer dies, which this is a really good timing, I like to throw down the ports about 10:30, 11 minutes anyway. And as soon as that observer dies and leaves, so he doesn't see me throw those down, then it's
you're pretty much safe, and that's pretty much what you also want to see, check out and start scanning and actively looking for as a Terran player against this, or using this build is trying to get rid of that observer, correct?
That is correct, because although if you see it, I've had replays where they've scouted the Starports way earlier on, and they've taken measures that they feel that were adequate to try to stop it. Most of the time it still doesn't work anyway, because they try to get, alright, I'm gonna get Phoenix. Well, the problem is that Thors shoot up, Marines shoot up. I can just maybe stop and do 1 or 2 production waves of Vikings, and then that'll just basically take up useless supply and they'll die quickly.
With those Phoenixes, yeah. Okay, so at this point in the game, it's 12 minutes now. You got your 3 barracks, you got your 3 starports, all with tech labs. You got your single factory. And is this the point of the game where you feel like this is exactly what you need?
It is. At this point too, I will say this is that I'm a little more Thor heavy, and lately, well, the Thor is my favorite unit period anyway. But I've been going a little bit more ground heavy, as opposed to heavier on the Banshees. But this is about where I want to be right now. If I thought they were pushing, I would have thrown down a third barracks, and also grab probably like 10 SCVs from the natural. That's another great thing about maps that are designed like Shakuris for this build. You can pull SCVs off of the natural line really fast and get them over there to repair the bunkers and Thors if they decide to push.
Definitely. And then yeah, definitely. That is a very good point. And I was just going to point out that as a Protoss player, it's easy to try to force field off those workers, but with those Thors there, you can just shatter those force fields very, very easily.
That's correct, and that's something I really like about this build. And this is something that, I mean, this is something I'm not gonna say this is a pro scene build. This isn't something that is gonna probably work in Grandmasters, but this is definitely something that can take you from gold to probably easily masters without much of a problem. At least if your main issue is with this particular matchup, which there's so many things about the unit composition that makes things easier for Terran in this matchup, because the Thors nullify force field. You're not going to have to worry about your units getting split up or getting set up in a bad position because Thors just shatter it. You have plenty of AA if they decide to counter your main weapon, which in this build it's the Banshee. Because you'll notice that I get air weapon upgrades just for the Banshees, so they're going to be the muscle. And so when they try to go Phoenixes or something of that nature to counteract that, the Thors and the Marines step in, complement it beautifully, and just kill any air.
So basically, what you want to do, what you're telling me is that the Banshees, in your opinion, are the backbone of this army, and the Thors and then the Marines are there to try to take out anything that those Banshees might fall to.
Exactly, and of course they all work really well together and just wrecking gateway units, period.
Yeah, okay, definitely. And right now you're actually just scouting around the map. You actually see Metalstorm taking his third. Is this something that worries you or might cause you to push out earlier? Or because you said you wanted to push out generally when you're about maxed out and you're about 39 supply from being there.
Yeah, this is actually a really late third, so I was completely okay with that. In fact, my SUV just got a poke on that Nexus. I'm so okay with that. And this is a really late third. What really is troublesome is that when they take a third at like 10 or 11 minutes, that's something that gives me trouble. But then again, you can easily, if you're able to do some damage with the Banshees once you get them out, then that's something that'll definitely slow him down a lot. Because if he takes a fast third and you take out 15-20 probes, it's gonna be kind of counterproductive.
At that point, you're pretty much an even kilter at that point for the next 2 or 3 minutes before you start getting those probes up and running out of those 3 next side.
Yep, honestly, in this replay though, I was a little bit not the greatest macro in this game. I'm normally a little bit better than this, but this is still I mean, honestly, this replay is good proof that you really don't even have to really be that far ahead of the Protoss supply-wise for this to still work. I've even had it to where I've had a 15 to 20 probe deficit, or worker deficit, I should say, and I've still managed to come out on top because of the engagement.
And it looks like right now you're pretty much gearing up towards that. I mean, you guys are both at 185, 182. It looks like you're walking down that ramp. So is Metalstorm. So it looks like you guys had a gentleman's agreement and decided to have an all-out fight in the middle of the map. And what do you want to do during this engagement, during this battle?
Basically, since with this type of composition, I mean, that's how many immortals we have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 immortals. Wow. Wow, this is actually really nice because he doesn't have Colossus or High Templar. So with this type of composition, you could really just A move. The only times you really need to micro. In fact, you'll notice here this grass kind of fucks him over. You really, with this type of composition though, is really gonna be something that you can just easily A move. If he has Templars or Colossus, that requires a little more micro or unit control, but in this type of instance, you can really just A move and he's just gonna get ripped apart. Even with that grass not there, he still was gonna lose that anyway.
Yeah,
it really didn't matter.
All the way back to the national expansion, and there was really no micro whatsoever in that entire fight. You just walked up his ramp and just shattered everything. His High Templar did feedback all of your Thors, but your SCVs are there to repair, as any good Terran knows. Bring your SCVs to a mech fight. And you were saying that you need to micro generally as the GG goes on. You need to micro if there are High Templar there, if there are Colossus, pretty much just to try to save those Marines is what I think was what you're trying to say.
Exactly, because the Marines are definitely a backbone of the build, and a lot of times they'll be responsible for holding the line against those zealots all trying to charge in, because you can't get a surround on the Thors with those Marines there, and the PS Starstorm will just wipe them out if you just stand them there. So the engagement is really important.
Okay, definitely. And yeah, that was it for this replay. It was a really interesting build. I'm gonna go ahead and try to poke holes in this build, because I am a Protoss player at heart, like I said before, and I will say again many times. But is there any other parting words you would like to leave with all the Terran players that might be able to glean something out of this?
Well, this is definitely a powerful build. I mean, I myself rely on it heavily. Just something you wanna keep in mind is just macro up, get that command center down. Definitely scout, because there's some tweaks in this build that that you can, that the way I was taught originally was factory then command center, but I've made some little modifications depending on what they're doing. So just scout intensively and keep producing. And what exactly, and once you get about 2 Banshees out, Cloak should finish right about, if you do it right, Cloak should finish right as the second Banshee pops out. This is out of the first Starport that you make the Raven out of. You can a lot of times do some harass and easily kill between 8 and 10 probes, or even 15 to 20, depending on how your Banshee control is and if he has
definitely.
cannons.
In this one you didn't get that many, but he did have about 2 or 3 cannons at each mineral patch. But that's a-okay. So that's it for this. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions for the Nature Boy Ric Flair, woo! Leave them down below in the comments. I'll be sure to feed them along to him. I'm sure he'll be happy to answer them. If not, then that'll be a-okay as well. If you guys enjoyed this, leave comments down below on what you did. If not, leave comments down below on what I could do to make these more enjoyable for you. That's it. I am out of here.